Hey everyone, it's Jessica Michaels here. Today I'm super excited because it's my first design team layout for the Shimmerz design team. So I'm starting this layout out with some textured cardstock by Bazzil, and I'm just applying some Liquitex white gesso to my background using my spatula here that I got from Amazon, and I'm just kind of giving it some smooth coverage here and just blending out the outside edges just to soften them a little bit. I'm going to let that dry on here, but what this does is it kind of preps my paper to hold all of these wet mediums so that it doesn't warp up my paper too bad, and it also allows some movement with my mixed media paints. So I'm adding my photo here with some smooth white cardstock, putting that aside. I'm just going to pull out some pots of the Shimmerz and add a little bit of water to them. I like to dilute mine a little bit. It kind of activates them and fills the pots up a little bit more, and you just kind of stretches your product a little bit. But here I'm just using my paintbrush that has been in my water, and I'm just basically swishing a little bit of this onto my gessoed part of my layout, and I'm just mixing up the colors as I go. I'm just going to apply to a few spots here. These two colors are It's Meant to Be and Pull Me Close. And then here's where the magic happens. When I spritz this with water and pick up my paper, I'm gonna let these colors kind of do their thing and blend together. And I'm just kind of creating some movement within these colors. I'm adding more water as I go, just kind of wetting down the areas that I want it to go on, because with that gesso, it's going to stop wherever it's dry. So I want to make sure that I keep that kind of wet on the edges and everything, so it can kind of blend and flow over towards the edge of where the gesso is. Here I'm just grabbing this third color, which is Anchors Away. It's a little bit darker shade. It's kind of like a bluish purple, and I'm just going to work some of that in to kind of darken this up in some of these areas. And again, I'm just kind of picking up my paper and just working with it, kind of letting it go where it wants to, just to create a beautiful marbled shade of kind of like a C. It looks like a C to me, and I just love the way that this turns out and looks. So I'm going to keep working with this. I'm going to grab my heat gun because I am a super impatient person when it comes to mixed media. So I'm just going to kind of slosh this around just by moving my paper all over the place and letting it run, and using my heat tool at the same time to kind of start to dry up some of these edges and pools. So I'm going to continue doing this until I get this a little bit drier. Again, I'm just watering this a little bit, getting that to work in where I want it to go, and kind of getting the look that I'm going for. I wanted most of this gessoed area to be covered with the paints, and I wanted the edges to be kind of blended out. So that's kind of why I'm adding these splatters too. I'm just breaking that up and creating kind of a marbled effect, and then I'm adding some bigger ones there by squeezing my paintbrush. I'm just alternating these colors. I'm going to add different splatters in different colors to break that up, create that marbly effect, and then I'm going to actually add in some of these sprays too, and just do some white splatters and some blue ones, some gold. I'm going to just mix all of that up. When you add the white to the colors here, if you add it to the wet media when it's still wet, like in that middle part, it's just going to blend. And then if you add it to dry mixed media, it's going to create more of that distinct splatter look. So I like more of a marbled effect and the splattered look both. So here I'm just going to dab up some of these little pools here. I'm gonna use my heat gun a little bit more, but I'm just really mixing up these colors, creating some variation of those splatters and the marbling look, and I'm just building all of these layers. So super fun. You can mix different colors together and do all sorts of things, and I just love this. So here I'm grabbing the whites of their eyes color. This is one of the color splash colors, and I'm just adding some of that white just to break that up. I'm going to actually set that aside and kind of clean up my space a little bit for now, and put some of this away, close up all these pots, and then I'm going to start doing some fussy cutting with my, I'm going to grab my Vicky Bouton I think it's the Discover and Create collection, and there's a piece of paper in there that has a bunch of flowers on it, and I'm going to actually cut a bunch of those out to use on my layout. So here I'm just kind of sifting through what I've got. I'm going to start matting my photo. This is that floral paper on the back side, but I'm using this front side just to mat it here, along with some tissue paper to go behind my photo. I love adding tissue paper behind photos. I just think it looks so cool and gives it a little pop of something on your photos, gives it texture. And then here I'm just ripping the bottom of that one off, and I wanted a little bit more on that right side, so I just ripped a little piece and I'm going to add that on too. So here I'm just using my ATG gun to adhere all of these layers together. And I'm just being careful with that tissue paper because that's in the middle there. So I just put my tape on the actual paper and not my tissue paper because it probably would just rip it up. So here I'm just going to add another layer here. I've done my fussy cutting at this point. I didn't make you guys suffer through watching me fussy cut all of those flowers out because it did take me a bit to do. So I've got that all cut out at this point. I'm just roughing the edges up on my layers of my photo. And then I'm going to bring in my background again and just kind of dab up anything that's still wet. It's not really warped that bad, so I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Normally, if it's warped up, I will just run it through my laminator and that'll flatten anything out. But I didn't feel like getting it out because I'm actually in a crop whenever I made this layout, so things are just kind of arranged differently on my space here, so I just didn't feel like grabbing it, to be completely honest. But normally if it's warped up too bad, I will run it through that laminator. So here I'm just going to layer my flowers and just spread them around my page. I'm going to pop some of these up with some 3D foam squares, and I like to use the G&K ones. They're my favorite. And then I'm going to use some canvas Flair there by Scrappin Happy Studio. I have a couple left from that set, so I'm going to pull one of those in and use. And I am adding some gold. My favorite thing ever was probably the gold Heidi Swapp Color Shine, which you cannot get anymore. This Gold Digger color splash is a really, really close replacement, and I just love it. It's just so pretty on your pages and just adds that splash of gold, and I just love it so much. So here I'm just gonna again alternate my flowers. I'm gonna use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive for some of them. It dries clear, so I don't have to worry about it peeking out if I make a mess with it. And then some of them I'm gonna pop up with those Gina K foam squares. Here I'm just grabbing this one with my tweezers. It's a little leaf that I'm gonna tuck in there, but it was kind of hard for me to get with my fingers, so I just used my tweezers instead. Just kind of letting these peek out around my photo. And then I'm gonna adhere my title piece down at some point here. This is one from Color Cast Designs that is just super pretty, and I just love the color and how it kind of still pops on the page, even though my page is pretty much the same color, but I just love it. I love the colors in this collection too. It's just so pretty, and it's like those deep bluish purples and the orange. I just love those little pops of color. So I'm just adding some gold thread behind some of these flowers and elements, and I'm just kind of looping it around and twiddling it behind my flowers and different elements on here. I'm using glue dots to hold some of those together, especially that Flair. Whenever I apply the Flair buttons, I like to do what's called a glue dot sandwich. That's what I call it anyways. And I put one glue dot on the back and then my thread twiddled behind there, and then another glue dot or two to hold it down to the actual page. So I've got my photo here. I'm going to go ahead and stick this down at this point because I know exactly where that's going to go. I'm not going to move it around or layer too much underneath it. So I'm going to just go ahead and stick that down at this point, and then I can get my title piece down as well. So that's pretty much the placement of everything. I have this cute little wordy bit from, I think it's from Citrus Kits from a while ago. I grabbed it along with some little mini albums at one point in time. So I have these little wordy bits left, and I'm just adding that cute little sweet there. I tend to do a lot of words on my pages and they get kind of wordy, but you know what? I don't mind. I mean, they're cute and I like to use little wordy bits and phrases all over my layouts. So it's an easy thing for me to add to my pages. So here I've got some more gold thread. That's where I was talking about that glue dot sandwich. I'm going to go ahead and stick my title piece down at this point, just using, again, that Nuvo glue because it's going to dry clear. And then I'm just going to add a couple more things, and then that'll pretty much finish this one up. Again, I just love those pops of colors. And just a reminder, if you do place an order, I'll link the website in the description for you so you can grab anything you need from Shimmerz. And if you do place an order, you can use my code Jessica in the box at checkout and you'll get a free gift along with your order. So super, super fun. I'm going to add some stenciling here, just using one of my heart stencils from my stash and some Distress Oxide in Uncharted Mariner. So I'm just using a blending brush to just add some light stenciling, and I just wanted to add just a couple little pops of hearts in there on top of that mixed media. So I just love the way that that looks. I wanted a couple more in that little spot right there. And that's pretty much it. Again, I'm out of crop, so I do have to, you know, get creative with ways to clean off my stencils and things while I'm sitting here, so I don't have to keep running across the hall to the bathroom and through the crop room to get there. So that's why you saw me just use a baby wipe temporarily to clean that one off. I fiddled with this spot up here for a little while. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to add up there, so I settled on that little flower and I popped it up with some 3D foam squares. So this photo is funny because it's a photo of all 3 of my kids, which does not happen very often at all. And it was like when we just cleaned the room and we had lined up all of their chairs, and this is in my craft room, but it's also a playroom as well. And they lined up all the chairs and they all sat there at the same time. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have to take this photo. So I just love how this one turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me create with you today. And feel free to leave a comment in the comments below and just say hi, since this is my first layout for Shimmerz. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.